Atlanta at Dallas. This total is sitting at 54.5. Falcons have won 3 of their last 4. Matt Ryan's been on fire. Geoff, what's your take on this one? Remember last year's 40-39 shootout?
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, it was early last year, but when you look at Dallas and the trends, they're 24-16 over the last 3 years to the over. It's a team that still passes the ball a lot, still plays at a very fast pace. People probably look at this total and they say, well, I mean, Dallas came off against Denver last week. Dak's a little banged up, but Dak's also a week healthier here. This team just tends to be a little bit different when they play indoors. I've mentioned this with Amari Cooper before. You've got Atlanta, one of the worst teams in getting pressure in the league. Their corners have improved a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop both CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper here. You've still got, and Dalton Schultz has turned into a reliable target. And really, if that doesn't work, they'll just pound Zeke against a bad rush defense. I think Dallas could put up 40 here, so I'm going to lean over. And Matt Ryan is playing well. I'm sure Pearce will throw cold water on this and take the under, but I do like the over in this one.
Yeah, Pearce, Geoff makes a good point. Dak Prescott probably going to be sharper in that second game back from a calf injury. So do you think this could hit the over, or are you going to pour cold water on it?
I'm going to pour some cold water on this. Now, I agree Dak will be sharper, and the offensive line for Dallas is playing pretty well. And I'm much more bullish on the Dallas Cowboys offense to score some points, although they have been kind of up and down. I mean, we just look at last week. They weren't really terrible last week. They just had some 3-and-outs, just didn't put together good drives. And when they started clicking at the end of the game, although it wasn't garbage time, they were able to move the ball. Dak didn't face a big pressure rate. So it's not really the Cowboys, it's the Falcons. This team is just not really that good. I know Matt Ryan has looked good recently, but you got to look at the schedule. Yes, they've gone over in 5 of their last 7, but they're facing bad teams and they're winning games against bad teams. And I know people are going to say, well, the Saints, that was a good team. They won last week. They had 3 drives. If you go back and look at that game, they did nothing. They had 3 successful drives, and that enabled them to win the game. I think their leading rusher had, 12 yards? That doesn't scream over to me when your lead rusher rushes for 9 carries and 12 yards. And I know Dallas allows opponents to score a bunch of points, but I don't have very much faith in this Falcons team. Much more faith in the Cowboys. End of the day, 55 is a big number to go over.
How much faith do you have in the over? We're talking now between the Vikings and the Chargers, Pearce, now at 53.
I like the over here. Minnesota has gotten themselves into quite a few overs lately, and the Chargers' run defense is terrible, so it's going to open the door for Dalvin Cook if he plays. If he doesn't play, either way, the Vikings have tons of weapons on offense, and they've proven they can score points. They've proven they're going to let their opponents score points. But back to the Chargers, they're allowing 25 points per game. It's just these defenses are not very good. The Vikings' defense got carved up by Cooper Rush. Is that the right guy? They've been carved up by they played poorly last week. They got out to a quick start last week and then blew that game. So both these defenses are allowing their opponents to score points. This isn't really that big of a total. Both the offenses have plenty of weapons. It just comes down to, do the Chargers show up? They've got the weapons to really score a ton of points every single game. But it's kind of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Well, it's the opposite for the Chargers. They have all the parts, but they don't often put it together. So if they put it together this week, they should easily clear the over here.
All right, Geoff, do the Chargers put it together enough for the over to hit?
I mean, I don't even know if they have to put it together. I kind of hope they don't. I mean, I am on the over. I like the over on this one better than I like the over on the first one. I mean, these are two defenses who are they're really not good. They're not good at limiting the big plays. We saw it with Minnesota again last week. They just can't get stops when they need to. They allow the big downfield plays in the passing game. You've got the Chargers coming in. I mean, they're using Austin Eckler almost every down now. Keenan Allen's starting to pick things up. We haven't seen from Mike Williams, but he probably picks it up in the spot too. I mean, it's hard to see these offenses not winning out against the defenses. I mean, regardless of who starts at running back for Minnesota, this is a terrible Chargers rush defense. So we can see big chunk gains there. You're just expecting a fast-paced game here between two teams that play at pretty fast paces. Chargers one of the fastest in the league. So, yeah, I think 52. I think, if anything, you could even say the totals in the first 2 games should be switched. I do kind of like Dallas to score a bunch of points. Like I said, I like the over, but I like the over much more in this one. These two teams, I don't want to call them frauds, but their defense just aren't as good as people think.
All right, Geoff, Tampa Bay at Washington football team total here is sitting at 51. The combined points per game average of these two teams is 52. So you want to roll with the over here?
It's pretty hard to take under on Tampa Bay games right now, isn't it? I mean, I really don't want to trust the Washington football team to get me 17 points, but I think you have to. I mean, this Tampa Bay team, they just throw the ball all game. So, they're 5-3 to the over this year. It's 51. It's a big total, but I mean, we know what Tampa's going to do, and they're coming off a bye week, obviously, with Tom Brady. They may be getting Antonio Brown back. Actually, I don't think they're going to be. I think he's still in a walking boot, but it doesn't really matter. Like Chris Godwin, the Washington football team basically don't have a secondary. That's how bad they're playing. Chris Godwin out there now averaging 11 targets over his last 2 games. They don't even need Antonio Brown. So all things considered, this is a spot where Tampa's probably going to put up 30-plus points. Do you trust Washington enough? I'll say yes. I mean, Taylor Heineke's been moving the ball with his legs. Again, I don't like this one as much as the Chargers game, but I just don't know how you take unders in Tampa Bay Buccaneers games right now.
Here's any way you can take an under with the Bucs here.
Yeah, it's tough to take an under in a Tampa game, but it's even tougher to take an over in a Washington game. And Jeff's right. Tampa's going to score their points. Tom Brady will probably lead 4, 5, maybe 6 touchdown drives. But can Washington do the job? Feels a lot like that Kansas City game a couple weeks ago where we just need, Taylor Heineke against one of the worst defenses in football to have 3 decent drives, and he could not deliver. You look at their last 3 games, not only has Washington not covered the spread, but they've also gone under in every one of those games. Tampa is fine. Tampa will move the ball. They will have no problem with this Washington defense. But I cannot trust Taylor Heineke. I can't believe Geoff is trusting this guy.
How much trust do we have in the Bills after that really pathetic 6-point performance against America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars? They're now in the Meadowlands facing the Jets here, Jessie. 47.5 points. Looks like the total is right now in the DK Sportsbook. Oh, yeah. Jeffrey, what do you think? Easy under. Easy.
I mean, nothing's easy, but I am going to lean under here. I've been burned by the Bills 2 weeks in a row, suggesting, they're going to blow these teams out, these weak teams. They're not blowing anyone out. I mean, I do think they're going to win this game easily eventually, but Josh Allen now averaging 7.7 yards only per pass attempt on the season. That's down almost a full yard from last year. They're not having as much success throwing the ball downfield. I mean, I don't really know. This game is up for debate in the fact that we don't know what the Jets are going to bring. We know they've been terrible and allowing a bunch of points, but how can you trust the Bills to just come in here and throw 30 points on after they haven't done that against 2 equally bad opponents over the last 2 weeks? There does seem to be a bit of issues up front with the offensive line with the Bills right now. This is probably a line I just stay away from personally, but I would lean under here. I don't think this one's come down enough. And again, do you really want to trust the Jets to get you 10, 13 points here? I don't.
All right, Pearce, the only thing I'll say there with some trends, totals hit the over in each of the Jets' last 5 games and the over 9 of Buffalo's last 13 away games.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to trust the trend. I know we're having trust issues, but the thing that I'm going to trust is what these teams are doing in recent form. And I suppose we can trust that the Jets will allow points. Their defense has been terrible, but again, as Geoff mentioned, the Buffalo offense, not quite rolling, but this is a good get-right spot. Even if the Buffalo Bills still get it together, kind of like we expected last week against Jacksonville, they didn't quite do that. But even if they do get it together and the right Josh Allen shows up, will the Jets score any points? And that was the issue last week. I was completely wrong with the way that game played out, but I was right when betting the under. I thought Buffalo would score and the Jags wouldn't. Well, the Jags didn't really score any points, but Buffalo also didn't score any points. So we could have a situation again where Buffalo wakes up, but yet the Jets offense is unable to do anything against the Bills. The Bills defense was fine last week, 118 yards for Trevor Lawrence, 3.2 yards per carry for Carlos Hyde. Bills defense is fine. I can't see the Jets doing their part, and there's a chance that the Bills don't do their part. So give me the under.
All right, finally, Carolina at Arizona. Geoff, only 44 points in this one. Ooh. You think this could go over? 44.5, rather.
This is a really low total, isn't it? They're just begging us to go over on this. But I smell a trap. I'm good at that, right? So I'm actually not. I am going to lean under here. I mean, these are 2 slower-paced teams, especially the Carolina Panthers, one of the slowest-paced teams in the league. And I mean, are they going to just pick up the pace now that Sam Darnold is potentially out? No, I don't think so. I think they're going to try and make this game as ugly as possible. They do have a pretty good rush defense as well, although it's been eroding a little bit of late. I think the worry here is, you get like a semi-healthy Cardinals team that kind of gets their jive back. But I just don't think that's going to happen this week for the Cardinals. I think you'll see this game also be closer than the spread indicates, 10.5. And I think you're going to see, like I said, a slower paced game where the Cardinals just try to eke one out and limp on to the next week and get another week of rest. So at 44.5, again, Panthers games really just have not been good for fantasy, have not been good for points. I'm going to lean under here, even though it's a low total.
Pearce, do you want to take the under too?
Yeah, absolutely give me the under here. And dare I say that maybe Cam Newton wasn't the problem. Maybe Sam Darnold isn't as bad as we think. Maybe it's that offensive line, which has been terrible for the last several seasons for Carolina, that's holding them back. Darnold's dealing with a 30% pressure rate, which is the worst in football. He's been hurried 49 times, which is the worst in football. Now, he hasn't done himself any favors. He holds the ball the second most. He may not even play in this game, but I can't imagine that P.J. Walker is much of an upgrade. And then, since we're throwing everybody under the bus, the Panthers receivers dropped the ball at a 7% rate, which is also the worst in football. So not only are they slow, but they're just not good. This offense has not been as productive as it was billed to be last season. And under their new whiz kid offensive coordinator, it still isn't quite taking off. It's a bad offense. They've got bad weapons, and they've gone under in 7 of 9 games. So and then they're facing the second best defense in football that's got injuries and is probably going to be paced down, playing it safe as well. Yeah, I know 44 is low, but it may go well under the 44.